Hey guys, so this video is all about the Minor Arcana. The Minor Arcana in the Tarot, if we see the Major Arcana as the archetypes that each and every single one of us goes through, that flows through the collective into our experience, which shapes and forms our consciousness. So these are experiences which are intended to form our consciousness in a way, right? And so we can see the Minor Arcana. If we see the Major Arcana as such, we'll see the Minor Arcana as how we deal with those experiences, as in what we do to master that experience in our life, right? So we'll go through all four suits, and each suit is assigned to a certain element, and these elements represent certain states of awareness or consciousness that we are in at any given time. So the suit of Pentacles, for example, is usually correlated to Earth, correlated to the North, correlated to wintertime, and this often represents what we're tangibly experiencing or making happen in the world. Then there's the suit of Cups. The suit of Cups represents summertime usually. It represents the South, represents heat, represents the emotions, represents feelings, everything that we're feeling and how we experience our feelings in the situation that we're in, the feelings that we experience. Then there's the suit of Swords, and Swords is usually assigned to the East and is usually mental, right? So it's assigned to the element of air, has to do with our thoughts, our thinking, what we think at any given time in any given way, and how we express ourselves, how we communicate, but also how we communicate internally to our own selves as well. And then there's the suit of Wands, and Wands represents our fire, our spirit, that intangibleness, that drive, that will that we have to experience something, to live, to create, to make happen, that mojo that pushes the whole motor. And this is correlated to fire in usually the West and has to do with usually fall, actually. And or the Cups can be fall. It depends on which system you go with, but some systems say the Cups are fall, others say the Cups are spring, summer, and then the Wands would be summer and the Cups would be fall, or the Wands would be spring, the Swords would be fall, and the Cups would be summer. There we go. That's it. Anyways, I am giving a tarot course, right? So if you're interested in the full correlations and learning that, but also learning tips and tricks and how to get your own tarot business going, especially online, check out the tarot course I'm offering below, okay? It's in the box below. Just click the link. It'll take you right there, and you can sign up, register, and get going. It's great if you're there in person because then you can practice too, all right? Okay, so let's get started. I'll be going through each and every suit, and I'll be working with the Rider-Waite Tarot, the Anna K Tarot, which I find phenomenal for beginners because their cards really tell a story. And you'll see what I mean when I hold them up. And the Crowley Tarot, which is a little bit more esoteric but brings some additional meaning oftentimes to the whole suit, okay? Or to the meaning of the card. So let's get started. And we'll start off with the Cups. So the Cups usually are, or wait, maybe we'll start off with, let's see here, we'll start off with Swords. Okay, Swords it is. Nope, sorry guys. Yes, Swords it is. Okay, so we'll start off with Swords. And I've got my notes. And we'll start off with Swords, and we'll go through each one. So I'll start off with the Rider-Waite version of the Swords because that's the most commonly known version. And we'll go into the Symbology just a tiny bit because I don't want to take up too much time because we've got a lot to go through. So let me 1 second here. Okay, so we've got the Ace of Swords, and you can see the sword coming in here. Now, the crown represents expanded consciousness, and so the intellect, because the sword represents the intellect or analytical thinking, is piercing that expanded consciousness and awareness. So it's connecting. The intellect is being expanded. That's basically what this card is saying. It's being inspired, right, by this expanded thinking and awareness. So we've got a really it's a dry earth, it's a cold earth, it's very stark. That means that everything is naked, it's exposed, it's very clear to the sight, right? And barren almost. All the energy is focused in the intellect, very dry. So we've got the Ace of Swords. And another thing with the Minor Arcana is that it all ties into the Major Arcana. And remember, those of you that watch the Major Arcana series, I tied in each Major Arcana card to a card in the Minor Arcana, and they influence each other, right? So the fours in the suit, in all the suits, so the Four of Pentacles, the Four of Cups, the Four of Wands, the Four of Swords, are all needed in the Emperor experience of the Four. For example, here we are in the Swords and in the Aces. So the Aces, the numerology is also tied in with this. And if you understand the quality of each number and you understand the quality of the suit that you're in, then you're able to exert the meaning. Plus, you know which archetype it ties into, right? So, for example, the Aces are ones, right? And so they're ones, and ones are connected in the archetypes, in the Major Arcana archetypes, to the Magician, the Wheel of Fortune, and the Sun. And so these are all the Aces are needed in the experience of those archetypes and those cards. So you know that one in numerology represents new beginnings, strong starts, an infusion of energy, an infusion of inspiration. You know that ones are bold, courageous, that they do things that the surrounding things don't do, or people or communities don't do. And they step forward and they're just bright about what they're into, and they just show themselves, and they're the pioneers of the numerological system, right? So we know that Aces are an infusion of energy. They're clarification in the sense. We also know that the suit of the Swords has to do with thinking, mental concepts, ideas. So the one would be something, when we're thinking of one thing very clear, it would have to do with focus, it will have to do with clarity, it will have to do with courage, with boldness, with expression, clear thought, and also with elevated thinking. Now we're moving into the twos, and the two here, you can see on this card, we've got two opposing thoughts or thought streams that haven't been decided upon yet, right? So she's sitting in balance. So the twos have to do with being in balance. And in the mental realm, on the mundane scale, we see here the quiet waters, so peaceful emotions, right? Not too much earth, so we're still in the realm of feeling, and we're feeling peaceful and very balanced looking at this card. She's also blindfolded. So that means she's not seeing, she's not thinking clearly, right? So there are two different streams of thought. How many times has that happened to us where we weren't able to make a decision? Both sides were just as relevant, and so we sat in the middle for a while until the decision revealed itself. So this is the energy that the Two of Swords is representing. All in the mind. We're still in the mind because we're in the suit of the Swords, which has to do with thinking and communicating. Then we're moving into three. We know threes numerologically, and this is interesting because, again, the twos have to do with the High Priestess, right? So the High Priestess and the, depending if you're going with the Rider-Waite system, it will have to do with the Justice card. The Justice in the Rider-Waite is 11-2. In the Crowley, it is the 8, I think. Anyhow, the two, peacefulness, right? And the High Priestess, balance, High Priestess. These are all attributes that flow into that archetype, into the experience of that archetype. Now we're in with the threes. Numerologically, 3 has to do with expansion, right? It has to do with creativity. So here we are, we're in the realm of the Empress. So 3 of Cups would be expansion of feeling and emotion. 3 of Pentacles, we're expanding our talents. We're showing what we've got into the world, right? And this is the first expansion, by the way. And plus, you could break it down numerologically so that the 2, out of the balance of the 2, there is 1, right? There's an added 1. There is an extra 1 that gives an extra weight to the 2, to one side of the 2. So things are actually out of balance and they have to stay in movement to stay afloat, right? Because only what stays in movement stays afloat if it's off kilter, if something is off kilter. If it's very balanced, it can stand still. 2 of Swords, right? But if it's very unbalanced, it has to be in movement. And what is movement? Change. So the 3 of Swords is indicating the first change. And why it's piercing the heart? Because it is still, the heart is still very vulnerable. It's very naive. It's very out there. It's very exposed. It's very, and so the first time we had our heart broken, right, was probably a very intense experience. And each time it's very intense. But at the same time, the first time our heart is broken, usually it hits us out of the blue, out of nothing, out of nowhere, because we've never experienced it before and we don't know how to deal with it. And this is the energy of that 3. The first naivete being destroyed, innocence lost, in a sense. And so the 3 has to do with clarifying the mind, right? Clarifying any illusions, because the heart can be illusory. And we can see things because we want to see them that aren't quite there. So the mind steps in, and this is the first expansion, the first awareness growth. And here we have the heart, right? Then we're moving into the peacefulness again. Remember, balance. Balance numbers are usually very quiet, usually, not often. Well, usually, often. And the 4 of Swords brings us into healing. So after being tormented, right, by this expansion of consciousness and this growth in our awareness of what truly is, in the 4 we come into healing and rest. We have to rest. The energies are balanced. We're feeling at peace. We're not wanting to change anything. We're just wanting to hold the moment, right? And now the energy starts moving again, right? So the 4 is a stable number. We're putting the 1 in there, and the 1 can also represent ego, right? So here in the 5, and the 5 is the midpoint on the scale from 1 to 9, right? So here and in the middle, in the 5, everything changes. It's also called the marketplace number. It's also said that it's a number that's great for people that are into sales, traveling, expansion, growth, getting to know people, networking. This is all in the domain of the 5. So what happens in the 5 is that the energy has now outgrown its confines in the 4. The 4 can be a very confining number. It's very it has its 4 corners and that's it. But now the energy has outgrown its place there and it's looking for new territory. So in the 5, things become a little dicey. Not only do we attack ourselves, but we can also attack others, or we can be victims to the attacks of others, right? So the 5 has to do with how we expand our mental realm, our mental energy, how we treat ourselves on the inside, how we judge ourselves, how we judge others, and how we go about obtaining what it is that we desire. Then moving on with the 6, 6s have to do with aesthetics and harmony. And 6s are known to be like the family numbers. So here in the Swords, though, it's connected with travel. What does that mean? Remember, the Swords are mental, right? So mental and communicative. So this has to do with mental travel and mental growth. And we see here the woman, the female, and the child being ferried by the man. So if we break it down, the subconscious and the action is being brought to a different place by reason, okay? or by the masculine, by the intellect, right? And so we're learning to harness our emotions. We're learning to deal with our emotions. We're learning to transport our emotions in a safe way. We're learning to move. We're learning. And learning means leaving one way of thinking things and moving into another. And that's what this journey represents, right? In part. Then that is to bring a balance once again to a certain situation, balance to our thinking, harmony in our mind. It's meant to bring us to peace of mind. Here in the Seven of Swords, the thing continues, right? So out of the balance of the 6, we add 1, we add the ego, and we're moving into denial and self-sabotage. So, and this is another aspect that can be experienced and usually is experienced at some point in our life, that we deny something to ourselves or to others, or we're sabotaged by others, or there's some sneaky business in our consciousness going on, right? Or in the consciousness of others towards us. So here we see him sneaking away with swords that are not his and looking behind to make sure he's not caught. So we often do that to ourselves, where we kind of we sneak away. We don't want to see certain things about our own selves or about our own decision makings or actions that we don't like, that we don't want to accept. And so we're looking around and trying to make sure that we don't even catch ourselves, right? Not to mention other people don't catch us. So the 7 of Swords has to do with our self-sabotaging behavior. And the 7 is a number that correlates to mysticism, right? And it correlates to growing and developing in your mystical, spiritual practice, right? So the 7 in this case also correlates to guilt and shame, because this is the one thing that keeps us away from diving really deeply into our core being, into our authentic selves, where we're still lying to ourselves because of guilt and shame, or we're, guilting and shaming others. The 8 of Swords shows us being trapped in our patterns and in our tendencies. So these are established patterns, and you can see the swords as being a thought or a thought concept, right? Or a group of concepts, either by self or by others that are surrounding. And there's very little water, so there's little connection to emotions in the realm of feeling. So this person is not really feeling their way forward here, right? And they're not acknowledging really what they're feeling, but there's a little bit of feeling there, but it has more to do with self-pity than really feeling into the situation that they're in. They're also blindfolded, so once again, not seeing clearly, and the arms are bound, being trapped. And this leads to the 9 of Swords. This state is the staying up at night, nightmares, overburdened. We see the rose of desire and astrological symbols on the covers, and on the bed as well there are arguments. There are people arguing and fighting. So one person is down and the other person is fighting them. So conflict, right? Mental conflict. Here in the 10 of Swords, we've given up. We've given up. So this, if you see this as a thought form, a way of thinking or acting, it's run its course. It serves no purpose anymore. We've expanded, we've experienced it as far as we can experience it, and it's not going anywhere anymore. So now it has to be let go of. It has to be destroyed. Right? And the desires that created it as well. But you see the new beginnings with the sun rising here, so they say. So then we move into the court cards, and the court cards, they represent also mental states of being. So the pages usually represent omens or signs. So looking out for the omens and the signs, and recognizing what's being brought to you. So the Page of Swords has to do with learning about things, being inquisitive, because again, this is the mind. The mind is very active. It wants to know. It wants to see itself. It wants to learn, it wants to know, it wants to accumulate information. So with the page being very young and inexperienced, it's depicting a mind that is not, how should I put this, not being harnessed properly, that is not self-disciplined yet. He has yet to learn it. So with the page, there are many things, boundary crossing things. So things that shouldn't be said are being said, things that shouldn't be done are being done. Lots of stuff in that direction. Then we have the Knight of Swords. Now the pages are omens and signs, and the knights bring atmospheres, so general atmospheres that you feel. And when I say atmosphere, it's like walking into a room and feeling the atmosphere of that room, or someone brings an atmosphere with them. That's the Knight of Swords. And the Knights. And the Knight of Swords is mental, analytical. So they bring an atmosphere of clarification. Remember, the swords has to do with communication as well. So how do you clarify things? By speaking. And a lot of times, it's, again, the swords, the knights are not emotionally mature either. These are not immature forms of the suit. And so when the swords charge in, and it's the air element, it's communication, it's mental, it's very direct, it's very blunt, there's nothing held back, there's no maturity in the communication. So this can easily lead to miscommunication and arguments and blow-ups and drama and stress and strife and all of that, when the underlying intent was just to clarify either boundaries or interpretations or. So the knights bring in an atmosphere of speed and of hastiness, of doing things quickly and swiftly. Then we're moving into the Queen, the realm of the Queen. So now we're starting to become a little bit more mature, and after the experiences in the Knights, with the Knights, which is usually catastrophic, we have the desire. The Queens represent the emotional world, the inner stance, the inner way of perceiving, thinking things, desiring things. So the Queen represents the desire or the emotional stance for clarity, discernment, wisdom, knowledge, right? And so she uses her mental gifts and abilities to gain this. It's the desire for mental clarity, okay? And then we move into the ultimate emotional and physical mature handling of the element, of the energy of the suit, and that is with the Kings. And remember, the Kings are masculine, so the Kings represent action, whereas the Queens are feminine, so they represent the inner non-action, but in a way holding the energy. The King incorporates all three realms, so the Page, the Knight, and the Queen, in his actions. But he is action. And so as a mature action of the sword suit, the King represents discernment, wise judgment, leadership, being informed, knowledgeable, all of that, right? Having the complete overview, and that is the developed, wise mind. Okay, so those are the swords, and let me just show you the other the sword suit in the other cards. Where'd I put the swords for the Crowley? Interesting. So here we have the swords. These are the clouts of doubt and despair and of negativity. The sun is the clarity of consciousness, and the crown represents expanded consciousness. So the intellect, the sword of intellect, pierces that expanded consciousness, and voila, new wisdom. The Two of Swords in the Crowley. Here it says peace. And the Two of Swords is represented by the moon in Aquarius. So the moon in Aquarius is, I guess, must mean peace. Moon in Aquarius, guys. So those of you that are astrologers, this desire for peace and expansion and so on. Let's see here. Then we have the Three of Swords. And the Three of Swords, as you can see here, is it's black, which represents the colors also speak, right? So the Three of Swords is piercing this innocence, this innocent white rose here. And everything is fragmented. So that's Saturn in Libra. Saturn in Libra. Then we've got the Jupiter in Libra, which is the Four of Swords. Everything's in balance, and the fragments have been brought back together in healing. And now everything really falls apart. This is failure. Five of Swords. And this is Venus in Aquarius. Right. Then we've got Mercury in Aquarius with a Six of Swords. We've got the Moon in Aquarius again. There's something different about this aspect though, with the Seven of Swords. And we've got the Eight of Swords with Jupiter in Gemini. And we've got the Nine of Swords with Mars in Gemini. Overaction on the mental plane, aggression in the mental plane, harshness, vindictiveness, a search for, it's out for blood, right? Then we've got the Sun in Gemini in the Ten of Swords. And the Princess of Swords, or the Page of Swords. Then we've got the Knight of Swords. And we've got the Queen of Swords. And the King of Swords. Right? Okay. Then let's move on to the, I believe it's going to be the Cups. The Cups are a beautiful, usually really beautiful suit in the tarot, and we'll start off of course with the Rider-Waite. And in the Rider-Waite version you can also see this is a depiction of the Holy Spirit, an infusion of the Holy Spirit into your emotional experience. So feeling the divine, feeling divinity. Okay, so we see the Holy Spirit with the dove, and this is what Catholics receive. The cup can be seen as the Holy Grail, I guess. Water has to do with emotions, and the Yod, right? So an overflow of emotion, of pure, beautiful emotions. And sorry, I had to look for something. The Two of Cups, here we see the masculine and the feminine coming together, and it's very fruitful. And it's also the Two of Cups is said to be the true love card in the tarot. It's not the Lovers. The Lovers is seen as a card that depicts a decision, a higher decision, or a higher representation of love. But this one is representing the caring, loving aspect of love. And it's that soulmate love that's being depicted here. We've got the Three of Cups. So once again, right, the twos have to do with balance. And once we bring into that one, right? We add a little bit of unbalance into this, everything starts moving. But the Three of Cups is joyous, right? So joyous, celebration, happiness, because we're still in the realm of simple emotions, simple feeling, and our natural feelings when we look into our childhood is one of base joy. So the first three are going to be happy. But then we're starting to emotionally mature, and to emotionally mature we move through the experience of disappointment, unhappiness, dissatisfaction, not receiving what we desire, right? So here we have the first one with the Four of Cups, and the Four of Cups we get bored. The energy is stagnant. It's just more of the same. It's what we already know, what we already have experienced. And we know where this road leads, and we're tired of going down it. And so the Four of Cups can be dissatisfaction, it can be boredom, it can be ingratitude, not being grateful for what is, right? And now the energy starts to move again, though, in the Five of Cups, and things start to change. And how do they start to change? Through observation. We look at what we've lost, right? We look at what what's no longer working for us. We can clearly see that. And where the Four of Cups and the Three of Cups, there's no water to be seen. Actually, 2, 3, and 4 has no water to be seen. In the Five of Cups, the water returns. Right, so this can also be seen as a cleansing card in a way, as the water flows through and takes everything with it. But we see this person also cloaked in black. So there's an element of self-pity here again, because the sky itself is not black, right? So it's the person and what they choose to cloak themselves in. Then we move into the realm of the Six. Six, once again, has to do with harmony, right? And balance. And we find harmony and balance in our memories. So the Six, emotionally, right? We tend to balance out when we go through something strongly negative by tapping into our memories, either memories of good times or. And so this is also indicating, for some people, this is the soulmate card, especially the one for lifetimes after lifetimes, right? And this is to looking to someone who you've had a long connection with, who you've built up memories with, and so on and so forth. But otherwise, it can indicate memories. It has to do with that energy of nostalgia. Then we move into the Seven. Remember, sevens, we're adding one to the mix, so everything starts changing again. And now we're looking at various options, and we're looking at all the different directions we could be going in. And some of us, we can deceive ourselves, and it's really important to choose the right thing and not to be glamorized by everything the world has to offer. So this card would be temptation. In your feelings, what do I feel for? What direction do I want to go in? The Eight of Cups sees us leaving. We make a choice for one of the cups, right? We make a choice for one of the cups. And so we take off, because all the cups that we have, we know them. We know what's in it. We know them. And so we take off, right? So he's cloaked in red, which usually indicates desire. So there's a desire he has that cannot be fulfilled by the standing Eight Cups. There's lots of water, so here we go, and the moon as well. So we're definitely in the realm of emotions. The sky is dark, so there's not a lot of clarity, right? There's not a lot of conscious clarity. The sky is dark, it's just doing what you feel. We find that cup with the Nine of Cups, happiness and joy. And we solidify that when we move into the Ten of Cups, and we have someone to share that joy with. When you found your joy and you found somebody to share it with, or a group, then that solidifies that joy. 10 of Cups. And we have the Page of Cups. Again, omens, signs, and messages. So this is bringing love, showing love, expressing love, speaking of love, reciting love, poetry. We have the Knight of Cups. Knights bring atmospheres. So this can be someone who brings in an atmosphere of love, but is not necessarily there for the long term, right? Not necessarily emotionally mature enough to be there for the long term. This is someone who's armored himself, right? Remember, armor is also a separator, so it's a protector, an ego in a way. And so the ego in this realm of vulnerability can be hurtful. You can run yourself up against that. Plus, it's a guy who looks into his own cup. So this is the energy of, in a way, you could positively see it as self-love. In a negative way, it could be narcissism. Right? Then we have now we're starting to mature with a queen, right? So we're taking conscious dominion, conscious ownership over our inner states of being, and we're intending to be a certain way emotionally. So that is patient, enduring, loving, kind, sweet, open-hearted, all of the attributes that we ascribe to the Queen of Cups. And here in the King, we have our emotionally mature expression of the suit. So this would be an emotionally mature person who takes responsibility for their emotions and acknowledges that they have influence and power over the emotions of others as well. So the first one we did, I think I said with the swords that it was ascribed to Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, and the cups are ascribed, of course, to the water signs. So that would be Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces as well. The cups are each one, like I said before, belongs to one of the archetypes, right? So one of the major arcana according to their numbers, or multiples of the major arcanas according to their numbers. I forgot to go through the Anna K for the swords, so let's just do that really quickly. The Ace of Swords, which was really beautiful. And here she shows the Two of Swords as being something decided upon and then walking away. The Three of Swords, devastation, heartbreak, innocence lost. The Four of Swords, healing. The Five of Swords, devastation, willpower. The Six of Swords, the journey. The Seven of Swords, deception, thievery. The Eight of Swords, seeing yourself as bound when you're not really. The Nine of Swords, those sleepless nights of torment, anxiety. The Ten of Swords, death, destruction, ruin. But he gets up to walk away and heal. See? The Page of Swords, signs and omens. The Knight of Swords brings in atmosphere. The Queen of Swords. And the King of Swords. So in addition, with the Anna K, it's so good for beginners because all the little the swords are seen as dark-haired, fair-skinned people, for example. So she's drawn that in there, right? So you can learn all those associations as well. In the cups are seen as fair-haired people, and she's drawn that too. So great for beginners, guys. So this is springtime, the thawing. Then she's got the Two of Cups, and she's also you can also see which season or which system she's going with and which season she ascribes what to. So for the swords, she's ascribed it to the north and winter, as you can tell. With the cups, it looks to me like she's gone south for summer or spring. Sorry, it's springtime here now. And these are fair-haired people. So Two of Cups, love. I think, yeah, love. Then the Three of Cups, celebration and harvest. Four of Cups, having had enough. Five of Cups, disappointment, doom, gloom, and ruin. Six of Cups, memory and nostalgia, wistfulness. Seven of Cups, dreams, fantasies. Eight of Cups, in search of. Nine of Cups, wish fulfillment. And 10 of Cups, peace and harmony. The Page of Cups. The Knight of Cups. The Queen of Cups with her feet in the water. And the King of Cups, surrounded by chamomile and peace, healing. All right. Okie dokie. Let's see here. Then let's move on to the Wands. And, oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't do the cups for Aleister Crowley Thoth. And here we have the Ace of Cups in the Aleister Crowley. This is a magnificent deck. It is really beautiful. And we have Venus in Cancer for the Two of Cups. We've got Mercury in Cancer for the Three of Cups. The Four of Cups seems to be the Moon in Cancer. Very moody, and we can already tell something's going to happen because the base is not as stable anymore as in the Three of Cups. The water is turning gray and muddy. The sky is muddy, is not as clear. And it's kind of like too much is just. And the Five of Cups. And that's Mars in Scorpio. Then we've got the Six of Cups, which is the Sun in Scorpio. Then we've got Venus in Scorpio in the Seven of Cups. We've got Saturn in Pisces, ooh, in the Eight of Cups. Then we've got Jupiter in Pisces in the Nine of Cups. Everything's all balanced out again. And enough cups for the energy. And then we've got Mars in, I can't tell, either I'm missing it or Mars in Pisces, interesting, for the Ten of Cups. And we can see the Tree of Life, the Kabbalah, the Kabbalistic Tree of Life in this. And we've got the Page of Cups, or the Princess of Cups. We've got the Knight of Cups, the Queen of Cups, and the King of Cups. Okay. All right. So I think the King is Cancer. The Queen, the way it looks, seems to be Pisces. The Knight. Okay. All right. So we will dive much deeper into all of this in the tarot journey that I'll be doing. It's three sessions, and the link is in the box below, where we dive deeper into the tarot, practice reading the tarot for others, but also I give you tips on starting up your own tarot business. Okay? Alrighty. So let's continue with the Wands, the suit of the Wands. So we've got here the Ace of Wands, and the Wands represent fire. So these would be the fire signs: Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. And the wands represent willpower, strength, spiritual strength as well. The Two of Wands, we see him focusing and imagining what could be. There's a lot of feeling with water. Wherever water is, we're connected to our emotions, but also the beginning structures here that he's starting to build. And there's a higher consciousness that he's using, working with the mountains that allow him to see his possibilities and far into the future. Then we've got the Three of Wands, less water. Now things are very calculated. He's had some successes and he's looking out into the distance at his ships coming home. No, there's tons of water. I'm sorry, it's just golden water, so it looked like earth. But his ships are coming in and he's looking out, so his emotions are full and he's had some successes and he knows now, most definitely. Then the Four of Wands is celebration. Here there is no water. Right? The Five of Wands, it's a little bit of competition, a little bit of a battle, right? It's energy, overflowing energy, seeking a new place to you know. Six of Wands has to do with self-confidence and has to do with winning and that emotion of winning, that desire to win. Seven of Wands, standing up for yourself and feeling the need to defend yourself, possibly against accusations. Eight of Wands has to do with communication, travel, messages. Nine of Wands, again, defense, hardened defenses, hardened structures, hardened stance on something. 10 of Wands, feeling overwhelmed and oppressed by others' expectations, desires, rules, regulations, anything that can restrict us. Page of Wands, messages, travel, documents. Knight of Wands, travel, an atmosphere of change, of drama, of we have to think the fire is pouring through our house and then pouring out again, right? So everything that this fire represents, so inspiration, drama, excitement, sudden changes, moves, upliftment, but also destruction in a way of the old or of peace. The emotional side of us, the emotional aspect of us, our desire for joy, happiness, inspiration, the desire to tap into that. And of course the King of Wands, the mature expression of the suit. So that would be someone who knows how to inspire themselves, re-inspire themselves, but also inspire and others, right? And motivate and lead. In the Crowley, we've got the Ace of Wands. We've got the Two of Wands, which is Mars in Aries. Very focused, driven, and ready to go, ready to do something. Then we've got the Sun in Aries with the Three of Wands, absolute confidence. Then we've got Venus in Aries in the Four of Wands. 5, we've got Saturn in Leo. So the seeking expansion in spite of limitation, or seeking expansion outside of the limitation. Then we've got Jupiter in Leo with the Six of Wands. Then we've got Mars in Leo in the Seven of Wands. A lot of ego comes in there. Then we've got Mercury in Sagittarius in the Eight of Wands. A lot of expression, crossing boundaries, getting out there, possible travel. We've got, I'm thinking this is the Sun in Sagittarius in the Nine of Wands. Definitely independence, standing up, strength. We've got Saturn in Sagittarius in the Ten of Wands. So feeling this overbearingness, overwhelm. We've got the Page of Wands, the Knight of Wands, the Queen of Wands, and with her pine cone. So the pine cone also symbolizes intuition and psychic gifts and abilities, right? So there's this instinct, and there's a connection as well to an owl. That could also be Isis. I have to look that up. But the wings of something up here, they're wings. See? So the fire signs can also be very instinctual and very intuitive, or that aspect of us. And then the King of Wands. Okay. And let's see. In the Anna K, which is very righty-weighty, but we've got here the Ace of Wands. So this feeling of joy and unburdened, no burdens, lightness of being. The Two of Wands, finding focus, focusing on what it is that we want, we desire. Three of Wands, having had some success, we're now more confident looking out into what is, might be our future, might be what we're capable of doing. The Four of Wands, sharing and success. The Five of Wands, competition, discussions, debates, but still friendly. The Six of Wands, success. The Seven of Wands, here things are getting a little bit heavier. Right? The energy's built up. We're now fighting to protect ourselves, stand up for ourselves. Eight of Wands, messages, travels. Nine of Wands, a hardened stance on something. 10 of Wands, feeling overwhelmed. Page of Wands, the curiosity. Knight of Wands, Queen of Wands, and King of Wands. And last but not least, guys, but let's dive into the Pentacles, the suit of Pentacles. And here we have this Ace of Pentacles, and we see the lush garden. It's very earthy. It's very tangible, very pragmatic. We've got the Two, so a balance of energies, but also see the water, so emotional ups and downs. And balancing act, a balancing of desires, because he's dressed all in red and his shoes are green, so our heart's desire and what we truly want, it's kind of like we have to balance and juggle two things. Then we've got the Three of Pentacles, so hard work, dedication, teamwork, right? Focusing on your skill, developing your skill, practical application. We've got the Four of Wands. The Four, remember, is stable. The number is Four of Pentacles, sorry. The Four is stable. The Pentacle is earth. So all four directions of the earth, the four corners of a house. So this is a very stable energy, and it really holds itself well in this suit. And it can be stuck for a very long time because it holds itself so well. So the Five of Pentacles is loss, abandonment, rejection. It has to break up the energy of the Four. The Six is healing through giving, right? Giving and receiving. This is also the smaller karma card, you could see it as, or you could see it as the card of gift giving. But this has to do with that being able to give, but also being able to receive. It's not just about this man here giving. It's also about these beggars, or these people who are seen as beggars, but maybe in actuality, they're actually the bigger ones. You never know. You never know. With the universe, you never know. So it's the giving and the receiving and the small karmic cycle here, right? And we've got the Seven of Pentacles, wondering why things aren't, planning, assessing, reassessing, questioning, evaluating. The Eight of Pentacles, reapplication, focused drive and intent and hard work. The Nine of Pentacles, the first payoff, being able to sustain yourself, independence. The Ten of Pentacles, now it's sustaining a family, a community, longevity, establishment. The Page of Pentacles, messages, studies, learning to handle this suit. The Knight of Pentacles, stuck, traditionalistic, materialistic, still, and not emotionally mature, dealing with the element, right? very earthy, very pragmatic and practical. Not a lot of emotions are shown or dealt with here, but still a desire to serve and to care for and to nurture. Then the Queen of Pentacles, so the emotional, the inner stance, right? Here we've evolved, so we desire to be nurturing, we're intending to be giving, we have that emotional stance of making sure that our decisions are beneficial and not harmful, productive, right? And then the mature of all of the suits, actually, this is the final card in the tarot, is the King of Pentacles. So this is actually someone who has mastered the material world in all its various aspects, right? All its various aspects. So it can be very productive and giving and nurturing and caring and wise and all of that. Okay, so that was the Rider-Waite, and here we have in the Crowley, we've got Metatron as the Ace of Pentacles. And let me just look up for a second why, because in most of the others it's pretty clear what that is, but here we have the inner and the outer. It doesn't say. So yeah, whichever. Doesn't say in my little notepad here. But we've got the Ace of Pentacles. Beautiful. Then we've got the Two of Pentacles. And then this represents change. So we see yin yang. And this is Jupiter in Capricorn. So the expansive, positive, opportunistic Jupiter that's still stable. Remember, the even numbers are usually stable. And then we add one and things kind of tip. Except in the physical, right? The physical, it turns into this pyramid. So the first shaping or forming that is really working. And we've got here Mars in Capricorn, hard work, dedication, focus, drive. Then we've got the Sun in Capricorn with the Four of Pentacles, so established foundations. We've got the Moon in Taurus in the Six of Pentacles, so balance, stability, equality. Oops, I jumped one, sorry. We've got the Five of Pentacles, that actually came before. And we've got here the Mercury in Taurus. So Mercury, obviously, in Taurus, it's torture. It's very slow moving and grinding and very tied, earthbound, and very constricting and restrictive for airy Mercury. So this is torture and the various ways that we torture ourselves internally. The Seven of Pentacles, this is called Fehlschlag. What is this? Oh my gosh. One second. Failure. Oh my gosh. Anyways, so it's called Failure, and we've got here Saturn in Taurus. So very heavy energy. Nothing really moves forward. Very pessimistic thinking as well. Very not really conducive to anything flourishing. Then we've got the Sun in Virgo in the Eight of Pentacles. So hard work, attention to detail, working on what we figured out wasn't working in the Seven of Pentacles. Then we've got the Knight of Pentacles, that is the Venus in Virgo, where we have a very balanced, beautiful first winds. Things are working out. Then we've got Mercury in Virgo with the 10 of Pentacles. So things are very fluid in a light earth sign. Then we've got the Page of Pentacles. Studies, learning, acquisition. Then we've got the hard work of the Knight of Pentacles, the labor. Then we've got the Queen of Pentacles, Capricornian, and the desire to manifest and to create, to achieve. And we've got the King of Pentacles here, which is the ultimate in the deck, right? Okay, and the last one I'll show you, because I started showing you all these, are the Ace of Pentacles and the Anna K, and I love how she depicted planting a seed here. The Two of Pentacles, so juggling and keeping things afloat. The Three of Pentacles, hard work and skilled labor. Application of knowledge. The Four of Pentacles, hoarding. The Five of Pentacles, rejection, abandonment. The Six of Pentacles, we've got giving, gift giving, generosity. The Seven of Pentacles, again, evaluation, looking what works. The Eight of Pentacles, applying what was learned. The Nine of Pentacles, joy, fulfillment, satisfaction. The Ten of Pentacles, establishment. The Page of Pentacles, learning again. The Knight of Pentacles. The Queen of Pentacles, and abundance, fruitfulness. And the King of Pentacles. Okay, so that was the Minor Arcana. So in a nutshell, just remember the essence of the suit, and the essence of the meaning of the suit. So wands again are fire, which means drive, motivation, and desires. Then the swords are thoughts, thinking, and the cups are feelings and emotions. And the pentacles are tangible, hard work, tangible efforts, tangible results of the hard work and the efforts that we put into something. So what we actually see. Okay, and remember the numbers and combine it with that. So 0, or the ones, I'm sorry, the ones is ace. So ones are always new beginnings. Twos are the establishment, first putting down of both feet, so to speak, first establishing. Then the threes are movement, the first change, the first fluctuation in the energy. The fours are establishing that energy to the point that it can't be, the energy outgrows the confines of the four, so it moves into movement again in the five. Five is movement. Then it harmonizes again in the six. Then it moves again with introspection in the 7 as everything is internalized. The eye of observation is pulled to the inside for a mystical journey. The 8, we apply what we've learned. The 9, we have the first successes with what we've learned. And the 10 is the establishment of that energy, right? And then the internal actions that lead to external changes that we take from the pages through to the kings. So the pages are omens, signs, learning, information acquisition. The knights are an atmosphere that we create in order for something to happen, or an atmosphere that we step into that affects us in some way. Then the queens are the internal attitudes, the emotional attitudes that we hold, and the kings are the mature expression of that energy. Okay, so it's fairly simple once you have that. but also intuition plays a big role, obviously. So what goes where and when? And for that, like I said, I'm offering the tarot journey workshop. So just be a part, be live there with us. Much better than getting it later. And you can practice. You can practice, practice, practice. Okay? Alrighty. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I will chat with you soon. Take care. Bye.